Right, we might I saw Andrew Rutledge in the room. Let's go to item 13, the Canterbury Provincial Council buildings. And we'll stop at 11. I mean, depending on how long this takes, we'll stop at 11:30 is the plan. But if we finish earlier, we can stop early for a break.
Morning, councillors. So you heard from this morning. To reiterate, the purpose of this report is to essentially give us the ability to start the process. So we're not entering into a process. It gives us the ability to develop an EOI process. So that might not have come through clearly. All the points that were raised this morning are all obviously valid. Depending on the outcome of any response we receive, may require further public consultation so we can consider people affected. Obviously, they are incredibly important buildings. We've definitely been putting the right experts in place to consider how. I'll take the report as read. I will do that information.
I've got Pauline. Do you want to just flag what you're?
I'd like to move that the two requests that the Civic Trust and Enathfield both made this morning. So the wordings there, I'll give it to you, David. The Finance and Performance Committee requests Council to appoint an advisory to Canterbury Provincial Chamber Building Reference Group, etc., and that we undertake full consultation. And so we remove 1 to 4, but keep 5 onwards in the staff recommendation. Because I feel that this is an important building and we could easily take a wrong path on it if we don't consult with the people. And I think the people who would feed into the consultation will be all the ones with the expert knowledge and the history.
Sorry,
so if it's
that point clear enough, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to set up skills as we naturally would with any significant technical
well, it doesn't say that in the recommendation, Andrew. You haven't mentioned consultation in here.
Can go in the recommendation. Yes, fine.
So what we might do, I tell you what we'll do, Pauline, is I'll go to the other questions.
Yeah.
We might then take a break.
Yeah.
And then we can get some wording that works. Because I don't. Because the intent of this, in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to revoke the previous decision that was made and to set up a process which takes into account the feedback that's been given.
Yeah.
To start the next process.
Correct.
Yeah.
But nothing's been decided on that process. So let's capture what you're saying into it. But I think we need a break to get the wording right. So
documentation is being produced.
Yep.
So this just gives us the ability to start that work.
So what we'll do is we'll do the questions, we'll have a break, and then we'll get some wording that works. Yep. Sarah was first. Yeah.
2 things there. So while it kind of starts the process, gets the expression, it goes as far as doing the documentation, getting the expressions of interest together, and then once that process is closed, coming back to council. It would be good to see if we could have a middling step where we actually see, maybe it's just an information session or something like that, the step before it opens. So where we've seen the scope and those kind of things more clearly before it goes out, I think would be useful. The other thing is I think that with many of our important council buildings, it's actually really difficult for councillors who don't know the buildings. And I don't think with this council, and probably not the last term either, actually had an overview of in any form, whether that's in a briefing with photos, those kind of things, just an overview of actually what it is, what the damage is, all of that kind of stuff. I think there was some brief stuff before the last process. As we found out from the Multicultural Centre the other day, going to a building helps us understand the facility itself. I know it did when we were making the decision on Lancaster Park, for example, all of those kind of things. And I think that something like that would be really useful for councillors ahead of any big decisions, ahead of that stage.
Yep. Tim?
Yeah, thank you. The last thing I want to see is I think the city wants in yourself, would be we have a stall like in restoration as has the cathedral. The I think the complexity of this building and its restoration will be huge. So for me, I think the key is to be as accurate as possible on the costs of restoration, because I believe that what the cathedral's about 100 million out. So I think we really need that. And that comes down to the partnership, because I don't think anyone around this table can go out to their communities and say, look, we're going to be $200 or $300 million putting into this building. So I'm just saying, what's the process of finalising or getting as close as we can to the cost of restoration, so we can then go out to private partners?
Yeah, there's a lot of process to go through yet, and one of those processes would be, you know, a procurement process when we get to that point. A project of this magnitude, that procurement strategy would always come to council. The council's consideration and adoption, just like any other major project.
And also, I'd really like to know the process, because this is a unique building in New Zealand, the only one of its type. What if it is our hunting thing with regards to central government funding for this unique building? And if we can just have that in some stage.
So that might be picked up in an info session or something.
Yeah,
when we do it.
yeah.
Okay,
This is just getting us to the start line.
Yep, but I want to keep moving. So I've got, thanks, Tim. Yeah, I've got Yanni.
Cool. So I just wondered what conversations have been had with ECAN, given that, and it would be good to get clarity around.
There haven't been any conversations.
Okay, so my understanding of the recent history was that this building was vested in the Canterbury United Council and the Canterbury Regional Council, ECAN, which was its successor, commissioned a management and conservation plan. And so I just wanted to understand that.
We should, because I mean, okay, so that's, stop. Who owns it?
And why is it our responsibility? Okay, but sorry, do we know who owns it?
We own the building.
We own it.
Legislation.
Right, so, and what was the legislation that transferred ownership to us?
Sorry, I don't.
It's irrelevant for this, Yanni.
There was an amendment in the 1980s of the Vesting Act.
Okay, so I've got Victoria.
Sorry, just.
Well, unless probably like
it's to Tim's point, like this building is way more significant than just us as a city, and yet we're faced with picking up the entire tab for it.
So stop. We're not going to debate this, particularly not in the Fendalton Waimari Herwood community. What? Unless I've got the. Oh no, there was one a few terms ago. There was we've got a report that's revoking a resolution and saying we want to do an EIO process, which will include some of the feedback the Deputy Mayor's included. So I'm keen to move to Victoria, and then we can come back, Yanni, but they've got to really be relevant to this paper.
Yeah, so relevant to this paper.
We're going to come back
to the fact that this is the provincial building.
Yep. No, it's in the paper. Yep.
We should
So
talk
we're going to
ECAN about
Yanni.
We own it. We own it.
I found the answer to my own question in the financial implications.
Okay, we're going to go back to Yanni.
Sorry.
Oh, like I just, like I think have there been any moves to get this recognised as national historic significance, like we saw with the Arts Centre? Has there been any work done in that regard? And would that open up additional funding opportunities for us if we did that?
Through the chair, no. There's an existing resolution that we're requesting revocation of today, which has us on a particular pathway. So we don't really have the ability to change direction and approach this.
This is undoing an agreement.
This is
Something. Okay, cool. Andre, and then we're gonna take a break.
Thank you. I'm surprised one has been asked already in such a fruity responsible building. 5.3 approves bringing forward sufficient funding within the long-term plan to allow commencement of works. How many millions are we talking about?
It's being revoked.
That's the old.
That's the old one.
That's the old.
Although
So
But the question is how much is on the budget?
yeah,
About 19.5 million across the LT.
yeah. But is what you're doing potentially, would you describe it as the way to advance this with the least possible expense to
Potentially.
council?
Potentially, there are people who
intention of this.
approached council and said they have an interest in trying and partnering with council.
Yeah.
For the restoration. We don't know any details, they've just.
Yeah.
They've approached us to see if it's possible. Unfortunately, it's not possible as we go other than Christchurch Trust at the moment. Because of the listing resolution.
So you're right, Andre. I know what you're saying.
So you're right.
Yeah.
But we can't engage with other parties at this point.
Okay. Okay, so let's take a break and we'll get some wording from the deputy mayor, and can we pick up Sarah's points as well around the stage gates?
Let me just clarify the ownership as well.
Us. It's us, Andrew's.
The information that we've got in our own statement of historic record is that actually it's owned by the Canterbury Regional Council, and in '93 management of the buildings passed to us. That's quite different. So there was a vesting act in 1928 that was changed in 1988 to vest the buildings in the regional council. So I'm sure it wouldn't take long just to do a quick title search and find out whether we own it or whether we just manage it on behalf of the regional council. So
We can
it'd be good to get that.
We can let the team have a look at
Yeah,
it.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, so let's take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 11:30.
Yeah, I mean, this financial is 4.5 million on budget for this project. I mean, if we're now doing this, does that money need to be there? What was that money for?
That money was there to support the resolution, which was that the Christchurch Trust would use those funds.
Yeah.
Councillor Scandrett's inquiry, understanding the true cost.
Yeah.
So it was all the preliminary structural, etc.
But he's saying that 4.5 million needs to be on budget to scope out what it will cost to restore it over the next year. Is that going to cost $4.5 million?
Not necessarily that much, but that was what was originally allocated
Yeah,
for this part of the project.
I guess I'm trying to figure out how much money needs to be on budget for the next financial year. Just think about a lot.
I can't give you an accurate answer, but it's something that we can take away and have.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm not taking account of 4.5. An unknown amount of unknown people.
I understand your point. We'll look at that in regard to next year's annual.
Well, we'll be looking as part of this year's annual plan.
That's what he's saying.
Sorry,
So
next year's annual plan, being 1 July.
The one we're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, good point, Andre. And maybe flick something through.
That's all right. We'll have a closer look.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, so we've got some updated resolutions there. So
So it's just in black 6 and 7 of what we've added there.
yeah, Pauline, do you want to just talk through?
All right, so that number 6 and 7, so the rest of it above that is revoking this resolution, which we have to do. And then we're building in request staff undertake engagement with key stakeholders on options for the restoration of the provincial buildings and to guide the process for restoration and to
Develop a
And-
consultation.
develop a consultation document. That's not right. And then 7 is request an update from staff on the progress on the expressions of interest before it goes public, and that's what Sarah wanted there.
Just not on progress, just on the expression of interest. Just take out the 3 words on the progress. Yeah, but that makes more sense. Yeah.
So I'll go Tyler and then Celeste.
Yeah, just regarding point 6. Is that contradictory to the staff recommendation that just puts it out or puts out the process for a EOI? Or is it parallel with it?
Parallel. Yeah, it kind of leashes it out.
Cool. Celeste.
So for Pauline, when it says key stakeholders, is that specific enough? I assume that'll capture.
Yes, because we didn't want to get too specific, but it actually, I've been assured that it does include the wording, the heritage professionals and relevant academics that they actually.
It's almost the opposite, so we don't exclude people.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to check that. Thank you.
Okay, so Pauline's here to move that in.
Sorry,
Yanni,
clarity on the question of ownership.
on the ownership,
Section 4.2 of the report.
that hasn't changed over the break.
I can look it up.
I mean, the advice, not that.
Just slipped into the cheek.
Anyone can take it.
Can we come back on that? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I wonder if it's okay that that's addressed as component of number 7.
Oh, yeah. So request an update and some background on that ownership. Yep. Cool. Okay, so that's been moved by. Yeah. So it's moved by Pauline, seconded by the mayor. Any discussion?
We're all good.
Yeah, all in favour?
Aye.
Against, that's carried. Thank you both very much.